Hello, my name is Nicole Murray, and over the next 30 minutes, we are going to see a table talk conversation with two of my colleagues, Tracy Gady and Chris Stanczek. Both of these individuals have been students at the Organizational Leadership Program as well, along with myself. But interesting enough, our conversation will revolve around leadership, what it means to be a leader, the different skills and challenges that we see individually for ourselves as leaders, but ultimately, what are our takeaways that we've gained from this program? In short, one of the biggest takeaways that I've learned is that everyone is a leader. It doesn't matter if you're an individual contributor or if you're a leader that has subordinates reporting to you because of your title or your compensation pay. Everyone is recognized as a leader on various points. One of the things that I appreciate the most is the opportunities of things that I've been able to learn from this program. In particular, what are some of the key characteristics and key points of a good leader? It used to be, I used to think, a great leader was somebody who listened. And I still believe that today. But I also believe one of our great leaders is a leader who is able to offer humility, who's able to offer self-awareness, but in particular, who's also able to offer diversity of thought. And the diversity of thought being identifying each individual within the group of having a different perspective that they bring to the table. So come with us in the next 30 minutes as the three of us come together and offer the three of our different diversities of thoughts in regards to the Organizational Leadership Program and the things that we have learned, the things that we take away from it, and the things that we will continue to incorporate in our professional careers moving forward. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you both very much. I just wanted to come together today and kind of talk through the nice thing about what we all three have in common is we've all gone through the Organizational Leadership Program, right?
True.
But interesting enough, we've all gone through it at different times, right? And we've all kind of had a different little bit of a journey with it, if I can be so transparent about that. Probably because of the line of work that we do. And also probably, I know like Chris, you kind of, when it came to the electives of this program for organizational leadership, you kind of stuck more towards the business side of the electives, right? Mm-hmm. I followed Tracy's track.
Straight down the line.
Straight down the line. Straight down the line. And so tell me a little bit, before you guys got into the program, what were you expecting to hopefully take away from it?
Oh gosh, I was expecting to get the letters behind my name. Let's just be
really, yeah,
honest.
Yeah. I was expecting a piece of paper, totally.
The piece of paper was important to me. What I wasn't expecting was to really grow and expand my ability to defend an argument.
Okay.
My ability to support my assertions with other sources. So that was a big thing that I wasn't expecting. Yeah. That showed up for me in the program.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Tracy?
Well, definitely, I was similar in that I didn't necessarily jump into the program because I had an intense interest in it, but it was getting a master's, and it's terrific perk of being an employee at Creighton is to have the ability to get that paid for. So I thought, you know what?
Tuition remission.
Tuition remission.
Let's be honest. Let's put a plug in for benefits at Creighton. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It really is.
It is.
I think everybody should try it. But for me, it was a lot of, well, I think that I can do this program because it kind of relates most to what I could see myself doing in the rest of my life, and help me with the weaknesses that I have. So I have to say that I don't know what my expectations were necessarily to start, but I ended up finding so many ways to tie it into my daily experiences at work, my experiences at home, friendships. It was kind of eye-opening, so I'm really glad to be on the opposite side now.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I remember when I started the program thinking that it was going to be just like Chris said, it was a piece of paper. I just was like, a piece of paper and some alphabet soup behind my name is really all I was looking at it for. But once I got into the program, I don't know how you guys did, but with me, I would be like starting to like actually picture actual leaders that I work with. Oh, that's that VP who represents that style of leadership. Oh no, there's that dean who represents that style of leadership. And what I took away from it more so, probably one of the biggest things for me was, I remember it happened in the second class, and I don't know if you guys remember this course, but it was the required second course that you had to take in regards to, I think Dr. O taught it, but it was in reference to leadership. I want to say like orientation of leadership or something.
Theory and application.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. And I remember during that course, that's where we first started looking at, hey, everybody's a leader, right? And I was like, no, Dr. O, everyone's not a leader. I don't know what you're talking about. But then when you really started diving in, and the more you got involved in the program and the courses and the coursework, you're like, yeah, my 4-year-old nephew is a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based upon the skill sets and things that he does, right? So I'm curious, when you guys were going through the program, did you maybe change your styles of approaches to people because of some of the coursework, or did you just know more education around the style of leadership with the people that you were dealing with?
Well, my career really has been dedicated to leadership development. So I actually came in with a pretty solid foundation of leadership theory and knowledge. But the program really helped me expand my thoughts on that. Yeah. For instance, it gives me credibility in what I do now, because I'm constantly trying to sell leadership development to my organization and the importance of it. And now I have some of those theories and the background to be able to say, no, these are best practices.
Yeah.
And it's provided a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
So I think my experience was a little bit different from yours in that regard.
Absolutely.
Because that theory was pretty well ingrained.
You had the foundation. I had none of that.
Same.
I went in cold turkey, not knowing what to expect, to be totally honest with you. Probably now weighing more in on the fact that I do think every organization needs to have a leadership development program. I think every leader, and if we're identifying all people as leaders, I just almost think that everyone needs to go through a leadership development. I wish we could take this program and kind of package it up, right? And require other leaders here in the campus. Because I see so many in my line of work, working in human resources as a generalist, we identify leaders immediately, but we don't work with them. We don't train them. We don't show them how to really be a leader. We just, okay, here's the title. Here's your subordinates. Here's the extra pay. Right. Good luck to you.
Go. But I remember, Dr. O's initial class, and one of the assignments was describe yourself as your leadership style now. And I did a picture of me standing behind a curtain peeking out because I'm a reluctant leader.
Yes.
I still am to this day, so that hasn't changed, but I have a lot of the tools that I need to, if I find myself in that space where I have to lead. So it's been invaluable there.
Here's my question for both of you. What do you guys think that you've learned in terms of your strengths and in terms of your challenges in terms of leadership? I know how from group dynamics, I know you did not take that, but I think you took group dynamics.
I did either.
You didn't take it? So group dynamics identifies everybody on your team and the roles, right, that you play. And I remember one of the roles was devil's advocate, and we had to watch the movie 12 Angry Men. And I remember thinking, oh, it's okay to be a devil's advocate. Well, that is me. Like, I'm always going against the grain. That's my strength, right? Sure. And And probably one of the things that I remember the most in terms of being a devil's advocate is I was on a committee, and I was on actually with Dr. Eileen Burke-Sullivan, VP, and Father Andy was in this committee meeting with me as well, and a couple other people. And Father Andy had said something, and I disagreed with him, and I said, well, can I offer a little bit of, devil's advocate to that thought? And he looked at me, and it was quiet in the room, and I thought, oh, did I just say something wrong, right? And he smiled, and he said, yeah, right? And then later, like the next meeting that we had, he said, well, I'm going to take a note from Nicole and play a little devil's advocate. And he had done the same thing to somebody on the committee. I learned that obviously through the coursework that I had done with this program. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses that you guys have seen and identified with your leadership styles?
Go ahead.
Well, and when I think back to the coursework, two of the courses that were most meaningful for me was the course on humility, and then the course on failing. And I guess I have always come from the perspective that I never could be a leader because I have too many faults. Make too many mistakes. But those courses in particular helped me to realize the humanity in all of us and that we all make mistakes, and to turn those into the opportunities to learn either how not to do that again or how to make something better. It's those playing devil's advocate that kind of cause us to think about something differently and to grow. So I know that, just in terms of how I view myself, I'm a little less hard on myself, because I know that even though some of our leaders they seem so solid, they seem so perfect, they're making mistakes.
Absolutely.
And they're doing this, that, or the other. Absolutely. We just have different personalities and attitudes. So I guess it's just kind of putting us all on a level playing field of sorts.
And if you're not making mistakes, you're not taking risks.
Right.
Agree. Yeah, no, that's a great point.
So
Can't learn when you're perfect.
I love that was, I feel like there was an exclamation point put on that point during this course. You have to take risks, you have to make mistakes, you have to fail a little bit.
Yeah.
It's interesting you were talking about I'm a devil's advocate. Oh, that's okay.
Yes.
One of the strengths that came out during the theory and application assessments was love is one of my main strengths. And I was like, that is so cheesy. That is so, I don't want that one. But through the course, I really came to appreciate, and I do, I want to connect with people. When I love fully, and that's part of leadership, is really loving the people you're working with, loving the work you're doing, and being passionate about things. So even though I wasn't real crazy, that came up as one of my strengths, I came to appreciate it over time.
Agree. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, that's great, because it's become a little bit easier for me to tell people that I work with that I love them, without it sounding like, oh my gosh.
Do you really? Do you say that?
I'm in HR, and I'm going to get in so much trouble. I have said that I love you guys, but I genuinely love you guys as human beings. Right. I really enjoy your company as people I can sit around and chat with and have fun with, but I have true concern about how you guys are. And I wasn't comfortable saying that before, because it does sound creepy and like, oh my gosh, you're going to get kicked out of HR for telling people you love them. But I think in a way we need more of that. Right.
Well, that kind of goes into my next thought here. How do you think the program has impacted your leadership? I would tell you, for me, I felt like this program allowed me to be who I am. Creighton isn't known for the profile of people of color being here, or that of staff, students, or faculty. And so, this program really kind of identified that, hey, it's okay. Like, we're all different. We all have different leadership styles. And so I guess I would hope, kind of going back to the Father Andy and the committee comment that I made earlier, is that a little bit of that is some of the impact that I make with people, right? In regards to, I always tell people and joke, I'm the Black Baptist girl. And so I don't fit the mold here. And that's okay. And I learned through this program that that's actually what makes all of us great and coming together and working together, right? And so hopefully it's that impact of being able to offer diversity of thought, which is going to excel any style of leadership, regardless of what style you identify with. What about the impact for you?
I think the main impact is it's armed me with more confidence to say, this needs to happen. We need more leadership development. It's going to impact the bottom line. It's going to impact the retention of your employees. It was very validating with the information I'd already had, but I feel much more armed with tools to make that argument stronger now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I know I tend to look with a more critical eye, and maybe this is not the best thing, at leadership around campus, because I've been through this program, and so I've had the opportunity to be exposed to ideals and best practices. And so sometimes when you don't see that acted out, it makes you think, okay, well, there's room for improvement. Now, I don't know that I'm comfortable enough being the person who suggests the improvement, but I know that I can see that maybe that's not the best practice. We need to do something different. So I guess it's maybe a bit more critical and a bit more appreciative of the leaders who do try hard to do good in that role.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think you get more of an appreciation for the folks who are strong leaders. And I think it's great that people are looking with a critical eye, so we don't have everybody following people who are not doing the right thing as far as leadership.
Diversity.
Diversity, yes, outside the mold, right? How has leadership changed kind of segueing into what you just said, but how has leadership changed your mindset in terms of the work that you perform on a daily basis? I know for me, I'll be honest with you, the humility class, I took the humility class as well too, and I feel like I have a little bit more empathy, a little bit more relatability, or try to have relatability to that leader when they come to me and they approach me, than what I probably did, honestly, either before the program or even before the course, right? But now, having taken that course, I feel like one of the things that I'm trying to do more of is even show a little bit more humility myself, and so people can see that that's okay, right? Like, it's okay to show humility to the rest of the group. The other day, there was a exit survey that had come through, and I was just mortified. It was one of my employees in my groups, and the exit surveys go out to all of the HRGs, right? And I have so much on my plate with going on with school and with work, and I said, I can't, I'm going to cry. I said, I'm going to start crying because I know I'm going to have to dive into this, and I'm going to have to contact this employee who's leaving us, and it's probably going to escalate and lead into some other situations, because she had talked about leadership and that she was disappointed in some of the leadership that she'd been encountering. And for me, it was a moment of showing humility with my team, because I was like, I'm just going to break down and start crying. And so immediately the team came in and they're like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I help with? Right? Before this class, I would have never said that. I would have gone into the bathroom stall, probably cried. And then that's growth. That's growth. But then I'm like, hey, it's okay. We're all human. What have you learned in terms of?
I think the big thing is that leadership is a responsibility to other human beings. You're responsible to bring them up and help them grow and have those experiences. Leadership is moving from doing the work to enabling others to be able to do the work. If you're continuing to be doing the work, it's kind of like the coach being out on the football field. It doesn't work.
That's true.
So, that responsibility that leaders had really, really hit me hard throughout the entire program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I find it empowering when a leader has humility and admits their flaws.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I like to think that I'm really good at apologizing because I make so many mistakes. But in all honesty, it's because when I make a mistake, I know that it probably has an impact to somebody else. And so I want to let them know that I'm sorry that happened. I accept my responsibility in this. What can I do to make it better? I'm not saying that there still aren't times where I just want to cringe. But that's me. But when I'm looking at leaders and they acknowledge something that either they didn't do right, whatever the case is, when they accept that as a part of, I should have been more on top of this, it makes me like them a little bit more.
Well, I'd be remorseful, ladies, if we didn't talk a little bit about the Jesuit principles and how that has also evolved into this program, and even just in general of leadership development, as you've indicated here before. What for you, I know for me, it's funny because I was really reflecting on this, and I remember when I first started 3.5 years ago, and again, remember I'm the Black Baptist girl. But when I came in here, the first thing I constantly kept hearing from leaders, in particular when we were talking with employee relations, right? Mm-hmm. And they would say, oh, I don't want to take that next step because what does that say about cure personalis? So for me, I feel like sometimes the leaders, when I first started, and even a little bit today, to be honest with you, look at cure personalis almost to a fault, right? Mm-hmm. And again, remember, I am consumed usually with employee relations. So that's one of the first things I hear from leaders is, how are we caring for the person, Nicole, if we write them up? How are we caring for the person, Nicole, if I fire them? I'm like, well, I mean, there's a little bit of accountability and responsibility for all of us. Right. What was something like that for you, Tracy?
Well, just to talk about that, cura personalis is not an enabler to, you did that example of a boss doing work for the admin.
Yeah.
The way I see it, and it comes partially from Father Andy, is that you're looking at how you can help that person be in their space to help them have the best experience possible, to grow, to learn, to have what they need. And by doing somebody else's job, you're not really doing it. So I said I wanted to talk about cura personalis because it is one of my favorites. We tend to think that it means take care of yourself, which in some ways it does. But again, Father Andy tells us that it's more about how you can identify with the other person to help them be their best person. So
even if being their best person is coaching and teaching them along the way as a leader.
I think that's more, after having taken these courses, I think that's more of the duty.
And you talk about the charisms. I think where the Jesuit tradition really came into play for me was with that book that we all didn't love reading. The heroic leadership.
Yep.
I loved it.
Oh, I did not. I did not like
Lenny.
it. No, I did not like it.
I had a hard time reading it.
Me too.
But the concepts were so clear and so, I mean, they go back 450 years, but those 4 pillars of leadership were so impactful to me that I think it's amazing that that theory of leadership has stood the test of time, and it parallels so beautifully what should be happening today.
No, I agree. I totally agree. If you could go back through the program, and I'll kind of end with this, what is one thing that you wished you wouldn't have done, and one thing that you wished you would have done? Whether that is a course, whether that is, maybe a project, what does that look like for you? And here's where I'm going with that. So I'll start. I'm going to be honest. The one course that I wish I could go back and just not sign up for again is the championship leader one with the sports. It was so, I honestly had to work on researching sports and then to be able to answer any of the questions or do the papers or the projects. And I was just like, I don't know sports. I'm not competitive. I can't believe I signed up for this. If I could go back and live it again, I would have not taken that course and maybe taken a business course, to be honest with you. The one thing that I'm really glad that I did is the group dynamics course. and humility. And the reason being is because even just in my own team, I went through and started identifying what roles each person brings and how can I interface my strengths with what that role is. What about for you?
I know that there is a course where I could have done better work. And so I feel like I may have let myself down a little bit in that regard,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, I think it was just an interesting journey, and I decided to kind of do it the straight path. And so I don't know what I don't know, so I don't know what I missed out.
That's true.
Maybe you missed out on some really exciting stuff.
Are you missing out on our humility class over here?
I do feel like I missed out on the humility class. So that's what I would have taken. I also, for the summer, I had 2 courses. My very last term was horrible.
Yeah.
I had the wellness and well-being course, and there were several 8-page papers.
Oh,
yes.
Simultaneously, I had an MBA elective where there were 3 discussion posts every week along with papers, so it was more of a workload than I anticipated.
I guess what I do want to say is, ending on a note here with both of you, is and I contemplated saying this, and I told myself, do not get emotional saying this. I'm going to try not to get emotional because I'm not an emotional person. But I'm grateful to both of you because I would have never been able to do this program without both of you. I mean, starting with you, Tracy, if it wasn't for you, I remember saying, hey, I don't think I'm in the program. And you're like, let me just talk to somebody over in a moment. I'm just going to make a phone call for you. And next thing I know, like literally later that day, I get this email from one of the admission counselors. I was like, hey, no, you're good. You're enrolled. You're ready to go. Right. And Chris, for you, it was constant. I mean, coming to you, like I felt like you and I were walking almost side by side this entire junior, because you graduated in August and I'll be doing it December. You were, and ahead of us in the December prior, right, a year ago for me. But for a girl who never once thought I could even come to Creighton, let alone get my master's from Creighton and work for Creighton, and I am so grateful to you guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. It has been wonderful to have these last 30 minutes or so of being able to explore what leadership is for all 3 of us, but in particular what it is for me. One of the things that I value the most is not only the skills and the challenges that I've learned about myself throughout this program, but also the ability to recognize that all of us together are a leader, and all of us together bring a different perspective that we have to learn to appreciate about one another. I'm grateful for the last 2.5 years, in particular, the group dynamics and learning how each person brings a different role and clarity to their positions. I'm grateful for the humility course that I took, again, in particular, learning that being willing to admit our mistakes in front of those of others is actually a great asset to being a leader. But in particular, I'm grateful for the opportunity that as a leader to recognize that together we stand strong and individually we stand united. Thank you for your time.